I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with Katherine J Batsis. She has written a loving memoir. It is called Dr. Andrew Batsis, husband, dentist, Kiwanian, Santa Claus, a heartwarming memoir celebrating the life of her husband, Dr. Andrew Batsis. He was a beloved husband, a compassionate dentist, a dedicated Kiwanian, and a figure reminiscent of good old Saint Nick. Through anecdotes, reflections, and cultural depictions, this memoir honors the positive impact he made on countless lives. We're delighted to have Katherine join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the folks at Inks and Bindings for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel. Katherine, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Well, I'm so thankful that you did.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Loved your memoir. I think it's such a beautiful, loving tribute to your husband that we can all learn about a life well lived, because he had many different roles. Like you said, he was a husband, he was a professional man, a dentist, and he also gave back to the community through the Kiwanis Club. I found that most intriguing in many ways, his dedication to Kiwanis, because I really have seen the signs on the side of the road, but I didn't know much about the Kiwanis Club until I read your book. So tell us a little bit about why you wrote the book and what it was like going through this beautiful life that was so well lived.
Well, Andy died unexpectedly. It was a shock to all of us. And we had a small funeral, but I told people that we would get together in 40 days for a memorial tribute to him. And would they be willing to write down a memory, something that they were inspired by him, something that would help us to know a little bit more and give tribute to my husband. The 40 days was wonderful. We had about 200 people that showed up. And then we had a Kiwanian. Oh boy.
I'll turn. Keep going.
That's okay. So you had a lot of people share with you the memories of your husband, stories about how he touched their lives. And that must have been wonderful, particularly since Andy left us unexpectedly and suddenly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about his work with the Kiwanis Club.
Well, I think he was very impressed the first time that he was asked to come as a guest to their meeting. There was great camaraderie in the club, and they were doing things to help the community. And it was an opportunity for Andy to get to know the community we decided to live in, and also to be able to become known as a helper or a person who would help to make the community better.
And he was actually at one point awarded the highest honor that the Key Club can bestow, correct? Tell us about that.
Well, I guess his love was helping to guide the Key Clubbers, who are high school students, and they have an advisor from the school, and they have one from Kiwanis, and Andy was the one from Kiwanis. And we had three different Key Clubs to advise. He was very low key in the sense that he didn't get upset if they did something that was kind of childish, but he would give them a look that told them, are you really going to do this, or are you going to do key club stuff. And they would immediately stop the shenanigans, and they would go into doing something for the key club, and also to make their days at school better. And also they would like to do something to make their community better. And it's just happened that they were service oriented.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us about your husband's work as a dentist. A dentist can be a very difficult job. There's long years of study, there's long hours of work. It's very physical. So to be a dedicated dentist is quite a distinction as well. Tell us about his work as a dentist.
Well, he knew what he was doing, but he was left-handed. So when he was able to make up his own office, which was part of the house, he had to make sure that they gave him the kind of equipment that he could use as a dentist with a left-handed.
Yeah, you would never think that that would be a significant thing, but of course, if the tools and the orientation of the table and the chair are a certain way, it's not going to do a left-handed person any good, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So he made sure that that worked out for him. When some children would come, often they would tell their parents, "I see Santa Claus." And when Andy heard that, he would look and nod with a smile, and then he would frown and shake his head, and he would alternate the nodding and the shaking until there was some reaction by the child, and they usually laughed.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So
And
that
that's
must have comforted the kids, just his presence, a familiar figure, when it's such a nerve-wracking time for kids to be in the dentist's chair.
right. And that's one of the things that he strived, was to make sure that everybody was comfortable with them, whatever their age. He made sure that they had no fear. He would talk to them, and it gives them a point of view as to what could be done for whatever problem he found. I always thought of it as, well, do you want a Rolls Royce, a Chevy, or a Ford? And then he would tell them what could be done for that price. And he also allowed them to pay so much money per month until that was completely finished.
That's wonderful. So he gave back in the community many ways by being an understanding, practitioner as well, realizing that people have different budgets, different timetables, different constraints. And I'm sure that helped a lot of people and helped them with their oral hygiene health, which we know now is so tied to overall physical health as well. Well, obviously, Andy was a loving husband because he has a wife who cherishes him, who has taken the time to write and publish this book. Tell me a little bit about your life with Andy.
Wow. My life with Andy was wonderful. If we had any disagreements, we found a way of talking them through, discussing them, and they've been written up in the book better than I can say them from my head. I enjoyed when he told me that the apartment we were living in Montclair was a mess. And he had been called to go to the hospital after hours. It was nighttime, about 8 o'clock. And he said, when I get back, I'd like it to be shipshape. And off he went. And I took a look around, and I had to agree with him. It was a mess. So I got out the Kirby vacuum, and I got out my dusting equipment, and we had some zebra danios, which are a tropical fish, and we had them on one of the bookcases, and I had to go around that so I wouldn't disturb them. When I finally finished everything, it was 10 o'clock and time for me to get to bed. So before I did that, I got out a paper and I made a ship. I drew a ship on it with a flag going across, ship shape on the flag. And I put that on the door. So when he came back to our apartment, he would see the sign, and hopefully his left eyebrow would go up because he would be impressed.
That's wonderful. Well, I presume that left eyebrow went up because it sounds like you did a great job, including the flag that said in ship shape. It's a wonderful story you told. Now, where did Andy have his practice? Was it in New Jersey or was it Massachusetts?
In New Jersey, in Toms River.
Mhm.
While we were in Montclair, he had 3 years. And the third year, he was interned at Mountainside Hospital.
Mhm.
And he had two experiences which were very, I think, very revealing. One, a fellow came to him and he complained of his jaw hurting.
Mhm.
And Andy looked at him and tried moving his jaw, and he said, I think you've got a fracture.
Mhm.
So they went together to the x-ray department and had the x-rays taken. And when they got them back, there was no fracture.
Mhm.
And my husband had him close his mouth again. And he said, this is textbook, definitely a fracture.
Mhm.
So he called up a neighboring dentist who had a Panorex x-ray machine and asked if it would be possible for him to bring over the client and have that done, which he was done. And they found two fractures in the jaw. So Andy told them at the hospital, you may need to be getting another x-ray machine because this one that you have didn't pick up anything. And then he had the opportunity of helping a hemophiliac get dentures. And that took a long time because they had to prep the hemophiliac and get him so that he wouldn't be bleeding to death.
Wow.
And then Andy had to extract the teeth that were there. And then they had to again stop what they were doing in order to prep him again to make sure he wouldn't bleed to death. And then Andy tried the mold and see if the mold would work. And I think he needed another couple days before the mold would be good. And then finally, he was able to make the dentures for him and fit them, and he was happy.
Wow. That's quite a story. So Andy was with him from start to finish, really went the extra mile with the diagnosis, and then was there with him during his hospital stay, and supportive the entire way with this man who had unbelievable complications and a potentially fatal malady because of his hemophilia. It's amazing. It's an amazing story you told, and I think very much typifies the care, the passion, the concern that your husband put into his work. I understand that Greek culture was also a big part of his life. Tell us about that.
Oh, well, the Greeks like to eat. And Andy loved to eat. And in fact, many times the Greeks have said, not all of them, but many of them have said that they're rich because they have plenty to eat and they're quite well endowed with the extra posture.
It's amazing, amazing. But the Greek food is wonderful. It's a good diet too. It's very healthy. I think we all should be on a Mediterranean diet. Maybe not with desserts. I guess the baklava can be a little bit bad for you, but the rest of it is really, really wonderful. So tell me a little bit about his work as a mentor with Kiwanis youth.
He was always there when he was supposed to be, and also when he didn't have to be. He always was in the back, watching and listening, and he wouldn't say anything unless there was something illegal that they were going to do, in which case he would tell them the law is, and he would repeat what the law was, and they would have to change their plans in order to be lawful. He also would go to one of maybe a shy key clubber, and after the meeting would go up to him and say, I think you did a good job, and I'm sure you will continue to do a good job. And that made the youngster feel very, very not comfortable, even more. What's a word that means?
Basically understood, recognized, you know. Absolutely, absolutely. Yep. Like I said, again, another example of his care and concern for others. What was it like writing this book? I'm sure it was great because you were entrenched in your husband's life once again through your memories and your writing, but at parts I'm sure it was difficult because you missed him. So tell me a little bit about the writing process, when you started writing it, how long it took you to write it, and that kind of thing.
Okay, he passed on in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And in spring of 2009, I thought it would be a good idea for me to write down all the memories, the good memories that I could think of, so that it would be like I'm reliving it with him, and that he's not at my side as I'm writing. And I was inspired always when I wanted to write up about an anecdote. I would think of a pertinent question, and that question would make me say, okay, I can answer that question. And I think the readers feel that they're interested in some questions and not in others. So they don't have to read the whole book to enjoy what would be interested in. I did not have difficulties writing it. I did edit as I went along. And I also asked on the phone if I could include a letter that I had received on the memorial tribute. And I got a lot of people who said they would like very much to have their anecdote shared in the book, and they would like to read my anecdotes too in the book.
What do you hope people will get from the book, from reading it? What do you think? What do you hope they'll learn? What do you think they'll learn about themselves once they read this book?
Well, I've already gotten answers. I asked them, what do you find of interest? What was your favorite part? And I think basically the one that stands out the most, because I got more people that said, gee, I wish I had really known him. It's like I knew him, but I didn't, and I really would have liked to have known him.
I also think it's a great example of a life well lived. You know, we watch the movie every holiday season, every Christmas season. It's a Wonderful Life. And people like you and people like Andy had a wonderful life. You touched a lot of people, you made a lot of changes, you affected a lot of lives, impacted them positively, gave back to the community. I mean, it's all of those great American values that people should strive for. Some do, some don't, some are quiet heroes. And so I think it's great to get Andy's story out there for that reason alone.
Mm-hmm. Well, um, I had been reading parts of the story to my family and friends, and they told me that's really very, very good. I think you should read it to so and so too. And pretty soon I said, well, maybe I should publish it in order that everybody who would like to read a memoir will have the opportunity.
Mm.
And that's what made me look for a publisher. The publisher that I got told me that I couldn't take the letters and the recipes, etc., anecdotes of others without their formal written permission.
Mm.
Now, that started in 2015. And between 2009 and 2015, there have been a lot of changes. Some people moved, some people passed on, and I had to look for next of kin. I had a very difficult time trying to get all the people who had written, and I didn't succeed in all. I got a lot of them, but some I just had to take out of the book, not put it in.
Absolutely. Has this started a little spark in you to write more? Are you thinking about writing more, or are you writing more?
Well, I had wanted to write about how I'm grateful and I feel blessed in this life. And I had put down some notes, and I live at an assisted living facility, and our activities director had given me information about a poetry contest.
Hmm.
And I said, oh, well, maybe I can make this a poem. And I put down family, because that would be the title of the poem. And then I would use, and I am grateful and blessed, as the last line of each stanza, kind of like a chorus. And I would then start in by saying that I was born into a loving family. There was grandmother, father, 3 brothers, an aunt, and mother. They all adored, respected, and cared for me. And I am grateful and blessed. That's the first stanza. And there are 13 stanzas or something like that.
Wonderful.
And that book is in progress of being published.
Excellent. Well, you've written a beautiful tribute there and are in the progress of getting that published. And you've written a wonderful book about your husband. It is called Dr. Andrew Batsis, Husband, Dentist, Kiwanian, Santa Claus. It's a wonderful book. It's about a life that was very well led, a life dedicated to the caring and well-being of others, a life of commitment, a life of integrity, a life of honesty. It is an exemplary life, and this is a wonderful book that is highly recommended here on the Spotlight Network. And now Katherine's going to read a little bit from the book for us, a wonderful stanza that I think you'll really enjoy. Katherine, why don't you share that with us?
The question is it true Andy didn't ask me verbally to marry him? Yes, it's true. He had a unique way of proposing to me on a park bench in the Boston Commons. He had me close my eyes and make a wish. And when I opened my eyes and found the engagement ring on my finger, I was so impressed that I glowed with excitement. I couldn't wait to show my parents.
Wonderful, wonderful. That must have been a terrific surprise, a loving moment, something you really obviously remembered your entire life. That's wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for sharing that with us. Katherine, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad that I was able to come.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Really enjoyed all of your stories. Really enjoyed your book, of course. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time. Until next time on Spotlight.